Gul Mosque. General. Gul Mosque, meaning the Mosque of the Rose in English, is a former Eastern Orthodox church in Istanbul, converted into a mosque by the Ottomans. The building is located in Istanbul, in the district of Fatih, in the neighborhood of Ayakip, Gate of the Saint, along Vakiev Mekteb-i-Sekik. It lies at the end of the valley which divides the fourth and the fifth hills of Constantinople, and from its imposing position it overlooks the Golden Horn. It is one of the most important religious Byzantine buildings of Constantinople still extant, but its dedication and the date of its construction, which for a long time appeared certain, are now disputed by scholars. It is either identified with the church belonging to the nunnery of Saint Theodosia, or with that of the monastery of Christ the Benefactor. Together with Eski Martin ve Kilise mosques, it is one of the most important crossing square churches in Istanbul. Gul Mosque. History. Byzantine period. At the very beginning of the iconoclastic persecutions, Emperor Leo III, the Isaurian, ordered the removal of an image of Christ which stood over the Jorkht, the main gate of the Great Palace of Constantinople. While an officer was executing the order, a group of women gathered to prevent the operation, and one of them, a nun named Theodosia, let him fall from the ladder. The man died, and Theodosia was captured and executed. After the end of the iconoclasm, Theodosia was recognized as a martyr and saint, and her body was kept and worshipped in the church of Saint Femia, in the quarter named Dekshokrashna, after the houses owned here by one Dekshokrats. The church and adjoining monastery were erected by Emperor Basil I at the end of the 9th century. The monastery hosted his 4 daughters, who were all buried in the church. Saint Femia lay near the monastery of Christus or Objectus, whose foundation date is unknown. It is only known that it was restored by Protospastus John Comnenus, son of Andronicus I Comnenus and brother of co-emperor John, who died fighting in the Battle of Myriokeph alone. During the Fourth Crusade, the Latin fleet gathered in front of the monastery of the Objectus before attacking the city. During the Latin Empire, the navy had its anchorage in front of the monastery, and the naval port was kept there by Michael VIII Palaeologus also after the restoration of the Byzantine Empire. Many sacred relics kept in the church were looted by the Crusaders, and many still exist in churches throughout Western Europe. The worship of Theodosia grew with the time, until, after the 11th century, the church was named after her. Since the original feast day of Saint Femia occurred on the 30th of May, and that of another Saint Theodosia, Saint Theodosia of Tyros, occurred on the 29th of May, finally this day became the feast day of Saint Theodosia from Constantinople. Saint Theodosia became one among the most venerated saints in Constantinople, being invoked particularly by the infirm. The fame of the saint was increased by the recovery of a deaf-mute. The church is often mentioned by the Russian pilgrims who visited the city in the 14th and early 15th century, but sometimes it is confounded with Christ or Objectus, which, as already said, stood near it. Twice a week a procession took place in the nearby roads. In that occasion the relics hosted in the church were carried along, followed by a great crowd of sick people praying for their recovery. The church is mentioned for the last time on May 28 in 1453. On that day, which was the eve both of the Saints' Feast and also of the end of the Byzantine Empire, the Emperor Constantine XI, with the Patriarch, went to pray into the church, which was adorned with garlands of roses. Afterward Constantine left for the last struggle. Many people remained all the night in the church, praying for the salvation of the city. On the morning the Ottoman troops, after entering the city, reached the building, still adorned with flowers, and captured all the people gathered inside, considering them as prisoners of war. The relics were thrown away and the body of the saint was cast to the dogs. Ottoman period. After the Ottoman conquest, the basement of the edifice, which in the meantime had fallen to ruin, was used as naval dockyard. Close to the building, Mehmet Efendi established a Vakf foundation, and erected a small mosque, Küçük Mustafa Pasha Mescid, and a bath, Küçük Mustafa Pasha Hamam, which still exists. Some years later, the ruined church was repaired and converted into a mosque. A minaret was erected under Selim II, by Hasan Pasha, a supplier of the Ottoman Navy. Afterwards the mosque was often named after him. During his sojourn in Istanbul, the German preacher Stefan Ace visited the mosque, identifying it with the Church of St. Theodosia. During that century the mosque saw the predication of the local holy man Gul Baba, which was allegedly buried in the building. It is also possible that the mosque was named after him. During the 7th and 8th centuries, the edifice was heavily damaged in its upper parts by earthquakes, until Sultan Murad IV restored it, rebuilding the dome with the pentanches, almost the whole west side, the vaults at the southwest and northwest corners, and the minaret. The building escaped the Great Fire which ravaged the quarter in 1782, and was restored again by Sultan Mahmud II, who added the wooden Sultan's Lodge.